Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. When you think of vegetable gardens, you think of tomatoes. Today we're going to learn all about them. Also, Mr. D is going to show us how to use fungicides and glyphosate. That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by Goodwin's Landscape and Garden Center in Germantown since 1943 and continuing to offer its plants for successful gardening with 7 greenhouses and 3 acres of plants, plus comprehensive landscape services. International Paper Foundation, the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Elena Haggerty. Elena is the owner of Tomato Baby Company, and Mr. D is here with us today.
Hello.
All right, thanks for joining us.
Hi there.
All right, Elena, let's talk a little bit about tomatoes. And let's start with this. How do you choose a good tomato?
Every gardener has to start somewhere.
Okay.
You can find a few amounts in your big box stores. You can go to Lowe's, Walmart, etc. Today's gardener can also find a lot of new to them varieties online. There are many vendors. Years ago, you had to order 6 of a kind. And we all get these lovely seed catalogs at the beginning of the year.
Yes.
And they have the picture of the biggest, greatest, prettiest, tastiest tomato on the very front. Unfortunately, like I said, years ago, you had to buy about 6 of a kind in order to try them, or you had to grow your own seeds. Today, there's a lot of vendors where you can mix and match, and anything that you can buy a seed for, you can also buy a single tomato plant for.
Okay.
Getting a variety like that is a whole lot better than ordering 50 of a kind, or 20 or 30 of a kind. Then you're committed to, if that wasn't really the latest, greatest tomato. Tomatoes love sun, love heat.
Oh, yeah.
And
we have plenty of that around here.
Yes.
No doubt.
So just about any tomato type that you're going to find, you can grow in our area. Some prefer a little bit cooler, but I'm going to show you today how you can actually get those to pollinate for you in the heat.
Okay.
But get the seed catalogs that come at the beginning of the year and look for something you want your early season, mid-season, late season that'll come in. That way you're getting your first tomato and you're getting all the way up to frost.
Right.
Pick some for production, some for just taste alone. And there's big ones, little ones, huge ones. There's blacks, purples, yellows, oranges, stripes. There's all different kinds of tomatoes, and most people haven't seen them because we don't have them offered in the stores that we're frequenting.
Okay.
Picked named cultivars. We don't get that a lot in the places that we often see them, but online you'll be able to pick a tomato by its named variety rather than just red beefsteak. Then if you like that tomato, plant 20 of them next year. But at least by trying different types, you can find the type that you like the best.
Okay.
You can find the type that another family member likes the best.
Makes sense. Okay. Now let's go to, how do you plant tomato? Now we know that sounds elementary, but we still need to know good techniques. So what's the best way to plant? Now, how do you plant a tomato?
Okay, we're going to imagine that we're planting in the ground.
We can do that. We can do that.
Okay. First, when you're planting the tomato plant, we want to make sure that we're planting at least half the stem in the ground.
Half the stem in the ground.
At least.
Okay, at least. All right.
If it was this tall, we might plant 2/3 of the stem under the ground.
Interesting. Okay.
When you're looking at the tomato plant, you're seeing a long stem. You'll sometimes hear not to plant leggy plants, but when I'm looking at the stem, I'm actually looking at the new roots. Let me explain. You're going to prune off the bottom, any of the branches on the bottom, because we don't need them. Okay. This part I'm going to let the plant keep this foliage to sustain it, but this entire stem is going to become our new roots.
Huh.
These roots are going to be custom grown in the soil that I decided to plant them in,
Okay.
rather than what the vendor put as their soil.
Okay.
So they're custom grown in your ground.
In your ground. All right, got you.
Let's say we had it tilled. You just want to go about an inch or so below ground, few inches below ground. You don't have to dig to China,
Okay.
okay? Just lay them slightly above the surface and lay them down. The sun will come along and they'll naturally just turn up. You might put a pillow, as I say, of like grass clippings or something to keep them out of the dirt while you're watering them. But you're just going to let the sun go on and turn it up naturally. You could cheat. You could lay them out in the grass ahead of time. In about 6 hours, they'll already have that arch for you.
Interesting.
But you want to put them like just below the surface level. Take the bottom of the cup off or the container. Break the roots up on the bottom.
Okay.
Just a little bit, not a whole lot. Tomato plants are very vigorous growers. They wouldn't need a whole lot of breaking up, maybe is what you would do a bush or a tree.
Right.
So don't disturb them too much. Now, we want to make sure, and I brought some Miracle Grow, or actually it's a generic of a water-soluble fertilizer. If you're gardening organically, you could use a fish emulsion or some other suitable alternate organic. But you cannot underestimate the amount of water to give them while you're transplanting them.
Okay.
As the stem is going to put out roots all along the stem, the new roots will come out. They need a lot of moisture. When you put them into a very dry dirt, like if you just tilled, the sun dried it out even more, it's going to begin to wick away the moisture from the stem.
Okay.
We want it to put out new roots, and we don't want that to harden off. So, this trench method, laying them down, you want to go ahead and put your fertilizer water along the stem and down a little bit more of a divot for the plant roots. But go ahead and put your water down then. That's about it.
Okay, I think that's pretty interesting. I think so. I see. Yeah. Not in approval. Now let's get to increasing your production in the heat. So how do we go about doing that?
Like I was saying, there's a few varieties that do not favor the south, that would favor a cooler climate. Which those are still great for us, especially if you're planting early, and we may still get a little bit of cool weather, and you want a tomato plant that will survive that. But in the heat, once our temperatures get 90 and above, you'll see your blossoms begin to drop.
Yeah, right.
Well, the stress, that could be stress from heat. If the plant's actually wilting, you need more water, but also that could be a sign that it was wilting, it was stress.
Okay.
If you never saw any signs of wilt, the blooms that you're seeing on the ground are probably just from, they never got pollinated and they were spent. They dried up, fell off, time ran out on them.
Okay.
And people aren't getting any fruit when it's that hot.
Okay.
When there are a few varieties like Heat Wave that are supposed to set at higher temps, but their higher temps are only like 96 degrees. You're only going to get a few of these heat-resistant varieties. You're still only talking about a few degrees that it'll set at higher fruit. Now, the pollen, if the textbook answer to this is that pollen is not as viable over 90 degrees due to the humidity and due to the heat itself. We cannot change the humidity and we cannot change the temps, but we can amp the pollination. The pollination on a tomato plant, the blossoms have both the male and female parts.
Okay.
All that has to be done for a proper pollination is the pollen has to fall within the flower to form fruit.
Okay.
This can be done with the wind, bees. Farmers taught me that you walk down the row and you shake your tomato plants. That's moving around. Another one that people do is they'll thump the blooms.
I know folks will do that.
Now, it's hot though, so we need to amp it up.
Okay.
We're going to imagine again
All right.
that this is going to be a blossom stem. where instead of each leaf coming out, we're going to have, let's say that these are all blooms on that stem. You take an electric toothbrush. Amp the wind, right? This is like the wind times 10 or the bumblebees times 10. And just put it on this blossom stem so that you're actually vibrating all these blooms at the same time. You don't have to put on each individual bloom. But I don't know how to do it on a stem, but we'll find out. That one leaf is just a blur of green. You can't see it. Now, if those were actually blossoms, you would just see a blur of yellow.
Like that.
Now that's going to amp how much movement and how much pollination that you're going to have.
Wow.
And you will get fruit.
And you will get fruit.
You will get fruit. Now, I did this every other day for, 2 weeks, and I did it in the morning time. It was I didn't plant till mid-July, and I had about 80 plants planted, but 2/3 of them did not have fruit. At the end of 2 weeks, they were loaded with fruit. I'm not sure whether it matters at the time of day, but if it does not work for you, go to the morning every other day. I know it works. You will have fruit.
Good.
So therefore, again, when you're looking at one of these pretty catalogs, you can order anything in it.
Okay. Let me ask you this right before we have to leave. How much water are we talking about your tomato plants need, you think?
Planting them, I would put at least a gallon, maybe half a gallon in the hole, half a gallon on top to water them to get the air out and solid it up. Okay. After planting, you're going to have an ebb and flow from the sun drying out the dirt. Different dirt, different composition. Yeah. Mulching is great. Soaker hoses work great as far as watering. Good. In my garden, I'll do 10 minutes with a soaker hose every other day. Okay. In the summer, I do every day. In the dead heat, I do every other day or every day. You don't want them to dry out, but you want to have constant moisture. So constant moisture is the key. Yes. Okay. Thanks for being here today. That's some good information.
It is.
We appreciate that. Learned a lot. Thank you, Elena.
Good too.
All right. There are a number of gardening events going on in the next couple of weeks. Here are just a few that might interest you.
Today we're going to talk a little bit about fungicides. Very important to understand that fungal diseases, most of the fungal diseases are spread by wind. They're tiny spores that move throughout the air. So you need to do a very good job of spraying the plant, coating the leaves, and it's probably a good idea to use a spreader sticker when you go with fungicides. The mode of action is totally different than insecticides. With fungal diseases, the fungicides tend to prevent a disease from occurring. If you already have the disease, most of the fungicides don't do a very good job of curing a disease that you already have. For that reason, we would recommend using fungicides on a preventative basis if you've had a history of a fungal disease problem. If you apply a fungicide and then it rains on it or your irrigation comes on and washes it off, then you assume that treatment did not occur and just go ahead and retreat. We have a couple of examples of fungicides here. We have chlorothalonil is the active ingredient in this product, the Ortho product, and then I believe Captan is the fungicide that is in this fruit tree spray. The Captan is mixed with a couple of insecticides, carbaryl and malathion. But these diseases that we're trying to control are brown rot in peaches, black rot in apples, black rot in grapes, early blight and late blight in tomatoes, most of the fungal diseases that are in tomatoes. Not as important to know exactly what fungus disease you have, but it is important to know that you've had a history of the problem and then apply these fungicides on a preventative basis. When applying fungicides, you pretty much treat them the same way most pesticides. This is chlorothalonil. We're trying to control some of the leaf spot diseases that are common on plants. If you've had a history of problems, we recommend that you apply fungicides on preventative nature. Try to apply the fungicide before you have the problem, because fungicides don't do a very good job of treating diseases after you already have them. They can stop the disease from spreading, but they can't cure the disease very well that you already have. With a fungicide, it's extremely important that you get good coverage on the plant. Fungicides come as wettable powders and as liquids or emulsifiable concentrates like we have here as examples. But we'll get good coverage on both the upper and lower side of the plant, so that when that spore that's transported by wind lands on that leaf, hopefully it will land on a leaf that has some fungicide on it so that it will die. We're going to talk a little bit about glyphosate. Glyphosate is another very, very commonly used herbicide in the area. Been around since the mid-70s. The active ingredient in Roundup, and the patent has long ago expired, and so there are a lot of generics out there. Glyphosate is a non-selective herbicide. It basically, when it was designed to kill any kind of plant that you put it on. Some plants have developed a resistance to glyphosate now, and that's developed a whole new market out there. The way glyphosate works is it is absorbed into the green tissue of plants, and it moves throughout the plant and will kill the entire plant. It works best on plants when they're actively growing. If you're in the middle of a drought and the plants are not growing very quickly, glyphosate is not taken up very well by the plant. So it's a good idea, if you're trying to kill a plant with glyphosate, fertilize it first so that it's actively growing, and then you can go ahead and finish it off with glyphosate. Okay, this is an example of glyphosate. The patent ran out on Roundup several years ago, so now there are several different generic formulations available. This particular formulation is Roundup, and it is ready to use. It's already mixed up for you. So if you want to use this, be sure, or I'd wear rubber gloves if I use this type of sprayer. Be sure you shake the material up good. You want to make sure that the surfactant that's in the Roundup is mixed with the active ingredient, the glyphosate. The way this product works, it is a non-selective herbicide, which means it will kill pretty much anything that you put it on. It is absorbed by green tissue, the leaves or the leaf blades, and it translocates to the roots and it kills the plant. So with that in mind, and this is the example of a flower bed that has some Bermuda grass encroaching on the flower bed, I'm going to go in here, and if I get any spray out here on this Bermuda grass, it can injure it, probably will injure it. So I'm going to be very careful, and I'm going to direct my spray only to the Bermuda grass that is in the bed that I want to kill. And I'm going to try not to get it on the Bermuda grass that's out here. On the same vein, I can get it on this bark, and it won't be a problem because that's not green tissue. So I'm not going to worry about getting it on the bark. However, I will be very careful not to get any on this little piece of a leaf here, because that is green tissue and it can translocate from that to the rest of the tree. But that is the way you use Roundup. If you have weeds out in the Bermuda grass that you want to kill, you can treat, like for example, here we have a little broadleaf plant that we want to kill, and I'm going to direct the spray to that. Now, I will kill this, and I may kill a little bitty spot of Bermuda grass right here, but Bermuda grass will go back into that spot very quickly.
All right, what we have here is poison ivy. Leaves of 3, let it be. Healthy poison ivy this is. All plant parts actually are poisonous. It contains the oil urushiol. And if you come in contact with this plant, you will definitely have a rash. So you want to be careful. A good way to control it is if you would cut it down about an inch, leave about an inch of it up, the stem that is, and paint it with some glyphosate, some Roundup, and that will help to knock out this vine. Because otherwise you have to get in here with long sleeve shirts, long pants, and come out here and pull it out. But I would advise, if you can, again, cut it, leave it about 1 inch up the stem, paint it with some Roundup. That way you can get rid of it. All right, so this is our Q&A session. Elena, you jump in there with us, all right?
Okay.
I have some mature crepe myrtle trees cut down, their stumps ground. Now the trees are back with a vengeance, sending lots of shoots up all over the lawn. I've tried digging the shoots up, but they keep popping back up. Is there a way to kill the crepe myrtle shoots and prevent them from coming up without harming my Bermuda grass? And this is from Miss Mary in Collierville. So Mr. D, can she kill those crepe myrtle suckers, or those shoots, and prevent them from coming up?
You know, I think this is the first time in my career that I've been asked how to kill crepe myrtles. I've had a lot of questions about how to keep them alive and keep them blowing and going. But yeah, you can kill crepe myrtle shoots. There's what you're looking for is one of the phenoxy products that won't hurt Bermuda grass.
Right.
And brush be gone, or several of those, anything that contains dicamba, 2,4-D and all that. Of course, you got to be, careful this time of the year when
Sure.
really, really high temperatures.
They burn.
But, and you may want to wait till things cool down a little bit. But they're pretty easily controlled with any of the products that contain the phenoxy herbicides like dicamba or 2,4-D.
Right.
Don't you agree?
Yeah, I agree with that. And you can actually use the wipe technique if you want to.
Wipe it.
Just wipe it.
Are you treating the trunk of the original one? Or are you?
I'm talking about the new foliage.
Yeah, just the new,
There's the new foliage coming up.
suckers that are coming out.
And it'll kill the trunk too.
Yeah, it'll knock them out. I also know of another product. I actually used it before. Sucker Stopper.
Sucker stopper?
Yeah, it's a plant growth regulator. And it actually does work. I mean, you have to reapply pretty much, every 7 to 10 days or something like that. But yeah, Sucker Stopper, a plant growth regulator. But yeah, using the phenoxys or using the Sucker Stopper, if you can find that, it works.
Why did you cut the crepe myrtle tree down? That's what I want to know, Mary. Why did you cut your crepe myrtle down?
She cut it down, huh?
Yeah.
She did the murder. She got rid of the crepe myrtle. Huh? All right, so here's the next question, all right? My squash are up and producing. However, I'm getting green and yellow squash from the same vine. Is there an explanation for this? I only want yellow squash. I only want the yellow squash. And this is from Willie.
Pollination? Cross-pollination? Mosaic virus?
I thought mosaic virus.
A mosaic?
Yeah, because there is one called yellow mosaic virus that can cause you to, have, this phenomenon that he's actually talking about here.
And it's spread by an insect.
And it's spread by
vector.
an insect. Yeah, usually aphids. You got to do weed control. For those. You got to treat for them, of course. Of course, you got to get rid of a lot of that crop residue that's down there because they're actually overwintering in that crop residue. But I think it's a mosaic. Because if you look at the picture, some of them are misshapen.
And some of them is a mixture of yellow,
mixture
green,
of the colors. Yeah. So to me, I'm thinking mosaic.
Probably what it is.
Yeah.
And how do you control that? You try to kill the insect vector.
You don't. I mean, it's eventually going to kill the vine. Yeah. And eventually. Is the fruit edible? It's a question I thought about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think it's edible.
Of course it is.
I would think so. Okay.
Because that virus, it's a virus that attacks plants, doesn't attack humans. It's not a...
Okay. Yeah, so you can eat that. But yeah, the virus itself will knock the vine out, the plant out.
Eventually.
Eventually.
If you've only got one plant that is doing that, your others are okay, quickly take it out.
Yeah.
If it's your only plant, take what fruit you can get. Worry about it next year.
He said he only likes
Clean
yellow.
up good.
Pick the yellow, eat the yellow, sell the green.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just eat the yellow one. Yeah, that works. All right, Mr. Willie, we appreciate that question. So, Mr. D, Elena, we're out of time. All right. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is familyplot@wkno.org, and the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. To rewatch a segment or get more information on things we talked about on today's show, go to familyplotgarden.com. There are links to extension publications on every topic we talk about. Thanks for watching. I'm Chris Cooper. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by Good Winds Landscape and Garden Center in Germantown since 1943 and continuing to offer its plants for successful gardening with 7 greenhouses and 3 acres of plants, plus comprehensive landscape services. International Paper Foundation, the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.